Last month, I met a friend I hadn't seen in a while. We sat down, ordered coffee, started talking about normal things. Kids, schedules, the usual life updates that never really go deep enough. But after a while, she got quiet. Not the kind of quiet where someone is just thinking, the kind where something is sitting on their chest, and they're deciding whether to say it or not. And then she looked at me and said, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise you won't think I'm crazy. And I smiled a little, thinking she was joking. But she didn't smile back. And that's when I knew this wasn't small. She didn't rush into it. She took a breath first, looked down at her coffee, slowly turned the cup with her fingers, like she needed something to hold on to while she spoke. And then, without raising her voice, without trying to make it dramatic, she said, For a few weeks, I was completely sure someone had been inside my house. And the way she said someone, it wasn't like fear. It was like she had already lived with the idea long enough for it to feel almost normal. She didn't look around, she didn't lower her voice. She just said it like she had accepted it before she even told me. And what made it hard to dismiss was how calm she was. If someone is exaggerating, you can feel it. There's tension, urgency, something trying to convince you. But she wasn't trying to convince me. She was remembering, slowly, carefully, like she didn't want to miss any detail. And I realized this wasn't a story she created. This was something she experienced. She said it started on a completely normal day, the kind of day you wouldn't remember later. She left the house in the morning like always, checked the stove, checked the door, turned off the lights, something she always does in the same order. She even told me she remembers standing for a second before leaving, just looking around, because she has this habit of making sure everything feels settled before she walks out. Nothing unusual, nothing rushed. But when she came back that evening and stepped into the kitchen, the light was already on. And not just on, it was that bright, full light, the kind that makes a room feel occupied. And she stopped, not dramatically, just paused, her hand still on her bag, because something didn't match the memory she had from that morning. And she stood there longer than she expected, not because she was scared, but because she was trying to correct the memory in her head. She told me she actually walked back to the door, looked at the light switch, even touched it, like it would somehow confirm something. And then she laughed a little to herself. You forgot, she said out loud. Not because she was sure, but because it was easier to believe that. And that's how it started. Not fear, just small doubt, pushed aside. A few days later, something else happened. She had been reading on the couch before leaving. Her usual spot, same blanket, same position. And she has this very specific habit. She always leaves her book open, face down, right where she stopped. Not randomly. Always in the same way. Because she doesn't like losing her place. But when she came back later that day, the book wasn't open anymore. It was closed. Not just closed, but placed carefully on the table, aligned with the edge, almost like someone had straightened it. She told me she didn't touch it right away. She just stood there, looking at it, because something about it felt intentional, not messy, not accidental, and that's what made it strange. And this is where something changed. She didn't panic, she didn't call anyone, she didn't even tell anyone. She just started noticing more, like her brain quietly switched from living to observing. She began remembering things she normally wouldn't. The angle of a chair before she left, the exact position of her keys, how far a drawer was open. Things most of us don't track unless something feels off. And slowly, as she realized something, nothing was missing. Nothing valuable was touched. No signs of force, no damage, no urgency. Just adjustments, small, careful, almost respectful movements. And then she said something I didn't expect. She said, I didn't feel like someone was breaking into my space. I felt like someone was quietly continuing it. Like they weren't interrupting her life, just existing inside it. One night she left her phone charging in the kitchen, battery low, screen off, nothing open. She went to sleep that night completely unaware of what was about to happen. When she woke up, the phone was still there, but the screen was on, unlocked. On a notes page, blank, just open like someone had started something and stopped. And that's when something changed inside her, not outside, inside. Because instead of thinking, someone is here, she thought, what if this is me? and I don't remember doing it. And she told me that thought was scarier than anything else. Because if it was someone else, you could fight it, stop it, call someone. But if it was her, what do you even do with that? So she didn't react emotionally. She didn't spiral. She chose something very simple, but very smart. She decided to test it. She took a small glass coaster and placed it on the table at a very specific angle. She lined it up with the wood grain, even took a picture of it, zoomed in, just to be sure she wouldn't doubt herself later. And when she left the house that day, she didn't just walk out. She paused at the door, looked back one more time, like she was saying, "Okay, let's see." When she came back, she didn't rush in. She opened the door slowly, stepped inside quietly, like she didn't want to disturb the answer waiting for her. And when she looked at the table, her stomach dropped, because the coaster had moved not far, just enough. And for the first time, it wasn't confusion, it was fear. Not loud, not panicked, but steady. And instead of running, she sat down, took a breath, and decided, I need to see this happen. She opened her laptop, turned on the camera, positioned it carefully, not obvious, just enough to watch the room. And then she left again. But this time, she knew she was about to get an answer. When she came back, the coaster had moved again. But now it didn't matter, because she finally had the proof she needed. She sat down, hands steady but cold, clicked play, and watched. Sometimes we just have to sit still and watch how God moves, even when the wait feels long and cold. At first, nothing. Then the door opened, and someone walked in. She paused the video, not because she was scared, but because something didn't feel right. She pressed play again and realized it was her, walking in, calm, adjusting the coaster, leaving. And she had no memory of it. She wasn't being watched. She wasn't being followed. She wasn't losing control. She was just so exhausted, so mentally overloaded, that parts of her life were happening without her being fully there. And maybe that's the part no one talks about. How you can go through your entire day doing everything right and still not actually be present in your own life. So if things feel strange lately, if life feels slightly off, maybe it's not the world. Maybe it's a quiet reminder to come back to yourself. This is Quiet Faith. Comment Amen if you felt this. Subscribe for more. You are always loved.